this is Jenny with Sipping Streams Tea Company, welcoming you to another Thirsty Thursday. And thank you so much for joining me today. Today it is on how to professionally taste tea. And so I brought you some cupping sets, a timer, some hot water, and how to professionally taste tea is just to make sure you standardize the way you taste all of your different teas. Now, for international competition, which we have entered many times, we've won 11 international awards, you always use 2.5 grams of tea. So we have some loose leaf tea that we have weighed out here. We have our professional cupping set. We have our appropriate temperature water that you're going to use to, like every tea has a different temperature, so you have to have the appropriate temperature water for that tea. And we have a timer. This is a 3-minute timer. So today I'm showing you how to cup or professionally taste the Ti Kwan Yin Oolong. One of the first things you want to do is to weigh out your tea. So it's always 2.5 grams for about 6 to 8 ounces of water. This is a professional cupping set. It's got little teeth right here that when you fill it up with water, you're going to strain it out. So you want to do your dry leaf observations. You want to look at them. Do they look even? What color is it? What does it smell like? And so sometimes when you breathe your warm breath onto the tea, you can kind of smell a little bit more of the aroma because you're kind of releasing some of the oils. This is the Ti Kwan Yin Oolong. It should have a slight vegetal, slight orchid-like aroma to it. It won't have too much of an aroma versus its infused leaf. And those are all qualities you want to write down on your notes. So some people have a cupping journal, and that's where they put all their tea observations, kind of like, you know, chemistry notebook or something like that. And you want to make sure you're consistently evaluating teas in the same environment, because if you're always changing the different lighting, you're changing the way you're seeing the tea. If you're changing where you're cupping, like say it's in your kitchen and you just finished cooking all this amazing steak and potatoes, your tea flavor might be influenced by the aroma of your steak and potatoes you just had. So, you know, you always want to have something somewhat neutral. So you're going to observe your dry leaf observations, aroma, appearance, does it look even, and a cupping set, and cupping is the professional term of evaluating teas, always is with a bowl and a cup and lid, and this special cup has little teeth there. So the first thing you're going to want to do is weigh out your tea, make your observations, then pour in your water all the way up to the teeth. Okay? And have your timer. So some people are very particular about how they're going to cup their tea. So they're like, should I flip the timer when I first pour my tea into it? Should I flip the timer after I put the lid on it? You know, how precise does it need to be? Well, if it's just for you, it's whatever you want it to be. But if you want it controlled all the time, always keep it the same. So this time I put the timer on after I filled it. So I'm going to want to keep that same type of rhythm and timing to decant the tea a little bit before the timer is up, just so it's more precisely 3 minutes, because I poured the water in before I started the timer. So I'm going to want to tip the water out before my timer is done. So I've already started one for you, and so this is how we decant or strain out your tea leaves. So you're going to want to tip your cupping set, and some people rest it on there. Sometimes it spills open and all your tea leaves go everywhere, but essentially you're straining out all the liquid. Now, I always tell people to do their wet leaf observations last, only because once you open this lid, all the aroma releases and you are going to lose some of that smell. So instead, you're going to want to do your liqueur observations next. You're going to look at it, you're like, oh man, there's a lot of bits and pieces of tea leaves in there. Or you might say, oh, there's a stick in there, or there's a leaf, like, I don't know. I don't know where you get your tea from, but make whatever observations you see in there. Like, oh, it's kind of yellow colored. So this looks very bright yellow, kind of like the sun. about noon, as long as it's not blinding me. And I do see on the surface, which you're not going to be able to see, on the surface are these tiny fuzzy specks. And so that's actually called downiness from the tea leaves. And that sometimes is a signal that it's going to be a very thick, viscous liqueur. Liqueur is the tea liquid. You're going to want your spoon, your handy spoon, because you're going to taste your tea. Now, the nice thing about tea drinking is that some people might call it barbaric, but I call it fun because you get to slurp and make lots of sounds if you want. So you're going to want to slurp your tea and like notice any different flavors. Now, at first you might be like, oh, it just tastes like tea. It tastes green, tastes good. And you can always relate it to your own experiences. So you could say, oh, this reminds me of my grandfather's tea that he used to drink all the time. You know, this yellow color reminds me of, you know, just what yellow would look like for a sun in a painting. Whatever you want to describe, they are your observations, so you can say whatever you want. And then sometimes if you kind of spin your bowl, it kind of like brings all the particles that went through the teeth into there. So it might be like, oh, there are some like green leaves in there and brown leaves in there and tiny little specks. Oh, I do see that. So you want to do lots of slurping. So it doesn't taste too strong right now. This is the first steeping. And the Ti Kwan Yin Oolong can be re-steeped up to 6 times. Technically, the 3rd through the 6th steeping are the best tasting ones. So this is just okay tea. By the time you've tasted the 3rd time, it's going to drastically change. So you did your dry leaf observations, you started steeping it, then you started doing your liqueur observations of what it looks like, maybe what it smells like. Kind of smells flowery, and maybe you have some other words you want to describe. And it tastes kind of green, slightly vegetal, slightly floral, but not like jasmine floral. Then you're going to want to do your wet leaf observations. So you're going to flip over your cup. You're trying to knock all the tea leaves that are around the sides of the cup, the wall of the cup, onto the lid. And then from here, you're going to look at your wet leaves. You can smell it. It's way stronger smelling than the dry leaves were. It's kind of crinkled. Not all the leaves are opened all the way. I see a stem there with some torn leaves in there. Is it even? Is the colors variated? I notice from here, the outside edges are dark brown and the inner leaves are greenish. So they change. The variety of color within the single leaf changes drastically. And I notice a lot of these leaves are still very crinkled. So this definitely can handle many more infusions because they haven't opened up all the way. So these are all observations you'll want to make. And then to take a step back on smelling the tea, sometimes for oolongs, it's really fun. Is you just kind of waft it into your nose and kind of go, oh, wow, it smells way more strong than the wet leaf or what the liqueur even tasted like. So those are the different observations you would make to professionally taste tea. So if you do this at home, I guess you're a professional tea taster now. Do you have any questions for me? So if you have any questions, please write them down below. If you have any suggestions on topics or anything you'd like us to cover every week here at Sipping Streams on Tea on Tuesday or Thursday, Thirsty Thursdays, please let us know and please share this with your friends, anyone you think would benefit from learning how to professionally taste tea. So thank you so much for joining us and please share this with your friends. We hope to see you every week here on Thirsty Thursday.